Hello, and thank you for watching. In this short video, we will be learning how to use the PeopleNet ELD system. We will be going over the look, feel, and functions. Learn the login process, change of driver status, update your resources, recording a break, completing a DVIR, and going over pre- and post-trip inspection entries. This is the PD4 unit, and currently the most used model we have in our fleet at this time. This particular unit features some soft keys along the bottom. There's a speaker located on each side of the unit, and the screen is a touch screen. From time to time, these units can freeze up, or the functionality sometimes seems like it's not working properly. First thing you're going to want to do is do a reset. In order to do so, on the right-hand side of the unit here, there is a cover located off to the side. And if you open this cover, you'll notice a green LED light inside. And just next to that there, you see the little black button inside that hole. That is the reset button. You'll use a paper clip or a tip of a pencil or pen and lightly press. It doesn't take much effort, and please do not push real hard, as those buttons are easy to break. And if they do break, it's going to cost us a whole new unit. So please be careful when doing that. Let's go over logging in. If you look on the screen here, you'll notice two fields. One says driver ID, and the one below it here says password. We will need to enter in both of those fields before we can select the sign in option at the bottom. To do so, we simply touch the screen inside that field, and we will get the touch keyboard. This is where we will enter in our driver ID. And in this case, it is simply an ELD test profile that I have set up specifically for training. Once you enter in that driver ID, you'll select Done up here in the upper left corner. Notice the first field is filled out. We still need to fill out the password at this point. So we'll simply do the same thing by selecting the field. And then we will enter in our password. Once you have entered in your password, you will notice up here that it enters it all in asterisks. PeopleNet does not allow you to review your password as you enter it in, so be careful. You may have to repeat this if it doesn't go through. Once you have it entered in, we're simply going to select the Done button in the upper left. You'll notice now that both fields, driver ID and the password, are both filled in. Now we will select the sign in option. This may take a while as the hourglass spins. This is where the data is transferring from the website to your unit in updating. Once the unit completes sharing the data, you will now get the first screen that allows you to see whether or not you are good to drive and how many hours of driving you have available before break. Notice here it tells me right now I have 8 hours of drive time. That 8 hours of drive time is the amount of drive time I have available before I have to take my required 30-minute break. You'll also notice up here there's some other descriptions in here that says who the driver is and the last time I was off duty. This is simply an informational page at this point. And if this line here was in red, there would be an issue with your logs. This is simply an informational page. And after complete, we'll go ahead and select Next. This is another information page, and this will tell us some of the things that we need to do before we even start driving. First off, it tells us that we have some uncertified logs. And it tells us that we have some logs that are older than 8 days old. And those will be located on the eFleet Suite website, where we can certify those and get those up to date from there. This unit only updates the last 8 days. So if there's some logs in there that aren't certified, you'll need to go to that website. Once you're done reviewing what we need to do before we start driving, we'll select the Next button. Once we do so, we will get our driver status options. This is where we will now select our duty status. In this case, we're going to go ahead and select On, Not Driver. Once I've entered that, it's going to go ahead and give me the option to update my shipments. In this case, it's already currently listed up here in the top. If there was nothing here, you would simply enter in your new shipment information here and add it so that it would go up here to the top. If this is not the one you have for the day, simply remove it and enter in your new one. Once you've entered in your new shipment information, you'll simply hit the Add key and it will bring it up into the box. Once that is current and correct, you will select Next. After you have updated your shipment information, you will be brought to the PeopleNet home screen. This is where we will be doing our pre-trip inspection. One of the ways to remember is to think about who does that inspection. In this case, it's the driver, right? So in this case, we're going to go ahead and go to driver, and we're going to select that. Once we select that, we get some more options that are available. And if you look all the way down here at the bottom, this one here says inspections. That's the next one we're going to select. You'll notice here on this gray line, there is an option for new or existing. It's always new. Just remember, it's always new. After we select new, it'll give us the option to select which inspection we want to enter. In this case, it's the beginning of our day, so we'll select pre. Once the pre-trip icon has been selected, we will now have the opportunity to enter in our pre-trip inspection. This is simply information for your logbook and not the DVIR. We are simply making a note of our inspection, not giving the details. So in this case, we will select this keyboard here. And the reason why we're selecting this keyboard here is because the touchscreen keyboard does not come up on this option. So we'll go ahead and select the keyboard from the soft key. We are now given this keyboard, and we're simply going to enter in PTI, pre-trip inspection, or post-trip inspection. It's pretty universal. It's simply there to provide your logs in the remarks section with what you were doing. Once you're done, you can simply hit the red X down here in the lower corner or hit the keyboard button again. If you noticed, down here in the lower corner was a button that says Save. We want to make sure we get to that. It gets confusing because that keyboard can be in the way. And some drivers get stuck here in the beginning. So remember, remove the keyboard and select Save. Once you do that, you will now walk around and inspect your truck and trailer. After you have completed your full inspection of your equipment and you return back to the truck, you will want to make sure that you are set back into the ELD screen so you can always view your logs. To do so, we're going to select this home key down here at the bottom, or you can select from the touch screen up top. Either one works just fine. In this case, we're going to select the soft key. And you'll notice now we're back to the PeopleNet home screen. And now we're going to select ELD eDriver logs. This brings us now to the ELD homepage. The ELD homepage provides us with vital information concerning our logs. Similar to the discussion we had earlier about the green line, it also shows up on this page after logging in at a visual that gives you an idea of how much time you have left before your break. One of the important things you'll want to notice here is the driver options icon. If the driver options icon is in an amber color or red, you must, and I will repeat, you must take care of those issues before you start driving. This is very important. My driver options is highlighted in an amber color. If you remember back to when we were logging in, it said that there was some uncertified logs that needed to be taken care of. That's why this is in color. It's a second reminder and a final reminder before you start driving. It is not okay to be driving if this is lit in color. This must be taken care of. We will simply select this icon and it'll bring us to the next page. This next page will provide us with other highlights. We will address these highlights in order, from unidentified, missing, to review of logs. These are simple to do. In this case, the only one I have available is review logs. So we'll simply select this. And you'll notice the hourglass kind of right there. Okay, now it brings us up to the next page. This is an events listing page of my log date on 3/15. This is not the current date today. This is taking me back to my last uncertified day. If you look on here for my whole day, it's all it's listed is an off duty. That's simple. We are off duty. We'll simply select certify and then we'll enter our password. If you notice, the password is entered in asterisks, and now we will simply select agree. This part can be confusing to some. As you notice, this was 3:15. Now we're on 3:16. Some people see this as looking the same and they go, well, oh my gosh, I already certified my log. This is where you'll need to pay attention to the dates. We're simply going to certify this the next day now. Once we certify the last worked day, we will be brought to the main ELD homepage or driver overview page. We'll enter our password in and simply select agree. Notice, as it brings us back to the driver overview page, the driver options is now in gray and is not lit up in amber color or red. This means now we can go ahead and start our day Let's go over how we enter a rest break. Taking a rest break is as simple as selecting the blue rest break button and agreeing to it by selecting yes. Once it completes its cycle, you will notice that the button now turns red and gives you a stop break option. Up here above, you'll notice in parentheses, it says 0 hours and 30 minutes. This will count down backwards as you go through your 30-minute break. Notice now it says 29. Once that gets to 0, we can go ahead and resume our day. To return back from break, simply select the stop break button. Once you do that, you can go ahead and select your duty status from there. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and select on, not driver. Keep in mind that this unit will put you to driving as soon as those wheels move. Let's assume for a minute that you're parked and taking a break. Somebody comes out and asks you to move as you're blocking their parking spot. As you know, if those wheels turn, it will put you onto driving. Let me show you how we get past this. What we will simply do is select stop break. This does not automatically stop our break until we have selected one of these statuses. If we cancel this, it brings us right back and our time is still counting. So we'll select the stop break. And in this case, we're going to go to off-duty PC. This stands for personal conveyance. And in this situation, you need to move the vehicle not for work needs, but for personal needs. Somebody needs you to get out of their way. Simply select the off PC, and you'll be prompted to put in a reason. In this case, we're just going to put in test. In your case, you could simply say, moving vehicle for blocked car. Once you've entered that in there, you select done, and you submit this. Now, if you notice, it says off PC up here in the top. That means you're good to move the vehicle. We'll want to go ahead and move the vehicle forward. And once we're done moving the vehicle forward, we will select our rest break all over again. Notice the time is still counting down. That is how we do a move and still remain off duty. We will now cover the resources. If you notice up here, in the right upper corner, there is a picture of a trailer with a red X over it. This icon up here is telling us that there is information missing about our trailer. The way we correct this and get the right information in here is by simply selecting the resources. Once we've selected the resources, we have a few options to select here: trailers, shipments, and vehicle. Since we are looking to update our trailer information, we're going to select trailers. Once we select trailers, we will need to update our trailer ID. You will simply select the field for trailer ID and then enter. In this case, I have entered training. Once you get your trailer number entered in, you'll select done. After selecting done, you'll need to go over to the add button and add that up to the upper box. Once it is highlighted in the upper box, you can go ahead and select done. Let's cover entering post-trip. This part is very important and comes at the end of your day. Please be sure to follow these instructions so that it gets done properly. If you do not enter these steps properly, you could end up logging out of the unit and remaining on duty. If you notice up here, in the upper left of the screen, it says current status, and it shows that the current status is on with a D for driving. We'll want to make sure that we're on not driver. So we're going to go over to change status and select that. Once we've selected the change driver, we're going to go over and select on not driver. This ensures that we're not in driving status anymore. Notice if you look over here, our current status now says on. Does not have the letter D next to it. This is very important. Next, we'll want to go ahead and select the home soft key at the bottom of the unit. Once we press that, we'll go back to the PeopleNet homepage. Just as in the beginning, you have to think about who's doing the inspection. The driver does the inspection, so we will go to the driver icon and select driver. Once on the next page, we will select the inspections icon. Again, always select new. And in this case, we're going to select post. Once we've selected post, we're going to have to open up the keyboard and enter PTI for post-trip inspection. If you touch the screen, we do not get the touch screen keyboard. When this happens, we will use the alternative keyboard located on the lower end of the board. Select it, and then enter PTI, post-trip inspection. And remember, we'll have to kill the keyboard, remove it, so we can access save. We'll select save, and now we have entered our post-trip. This is where you now get out of the vehicle, walk around and do your post-trip inspection on your equipment. After you've returned back to the inside of your vehicle, after you've done your post-trip inspection, it's time to enter and complete your DVIR, your Daily Vehicle Inspection Report. This is required by law. In order to complete a DVIR, we'll be sure that we are on the home page by selecting the home key. Once we are there, we will select message. This is an email that's going to go to the shop. The shop needs to know what is wrong with your vehicle in the event it needs to be repaired. We will select messaging. After selecting messaging, we will need to create the forms. Once in create form, we will scroll all the way down to the very bottom. And you'll see down here, we have truck trailer PST. We'll go ahead and select that and then select OK. Once we have selected, we will now enter the driver name, truck number, trailer number. After you have selected the driver name, truck number, and trailer number, you must select the next field down that says defect found. Simply tap inside the field and answer the question, is there any defect found? If there's a defect on the tractor or trailer, or both, you will say yes. If there are not any defects found, you'll simply highlight no. If there's nothing wrong and you've selected no, then you can go ahead and send this. However, if there is something, you will simply select yes, which opens up another field below. You'll tap inside this field and answer the question. Is it a tractor defect? Let's say no. Let's assume that this is a defect with the trailer. So we'll say no to the tractor defect, and then select in the next field down where they ask trailer defect. We'll select yes. Then, in trailer defects details, we will enter the information. In this case, I have entered training. This way the shop knows that this is an erroneous message to them. The next question down asks if there's more defects. If there is, you would say yes, and then continue the same process. If there is no more, then you say no. You will also find your history of DVIRs in the Sent tab of your messaging. Simply select Sent, and your DVIRs will be listed in this area. To sign out, off duty, we'll simply go to the home key located in the lower left corner. We'll select that, and then we'll go back into our ELD eDriver Logs icon. This brings us to the driver overview. Once in the driver overview, we'll simply go to Change Status. Select Off and Sign Out. We will follow the messaging in here to be sure there's nothing left to do before we turn the key off and exit the truck. We have an information page that shows up and tells you whether or not there are things that need to be addressed. In this case, this one's telling me that I have logs previous to 3/15. That's older than 8 days. For me to certify these, I must go onto the eFleet Suite website. There's no other information on here, so I will select Next. And it brings me to the login screen. It's very important that you see this login screen before you consider being logged off.